Good morning, everybody. This is very sad. You probably heard this if you watch social media. Gonzalo Lira has died in prison in Ukraine, and this has been widely reported on social media. And this information comes from his father, Gonzalo Lira Sr., who received news of this on Friday and has told people to um, spread the news that this has happened, and he died in prison in Ukraine for nothing more than free speech, for expressing his opinions. He didn't do anything wrong, he didn't commit any crime, but the murderous Zelensky regime stopped him from leaving the country after the beginning of the war there in February 2022. Arrested him in April 2022. He disappeared for a week, and I was concerned from them. I made a video then about where is he, but then he reappeared again. Obviously, he'd been held at that time for a week and threatened and told he had to stay in Kharkov, not leave the city, otherwise he would be arrested again. So he was confined to Kharkov for a year, where he made lots of videos and expressed lots of opinions. And I know a lot of you who watch this channel have watched him as well. And he's a wonderful storyteller and very, very, fantastic journalist and reporter who gave you the truth about what was going on and looked really deeply into the whole situation around what was happening in Ukraine and Russia. And a lot of people learned a lot of things from him that they wouldn't have otherwise learned. Certainly not if you watch the mainstream media, who are not informing you of anything real. They're actually just pushing false narratives for people to follow like sheep and lemmings and support the murderous military-industrial complex of the collective West and other things, and support the Zelensky regime and how they continued this completely unnecessary war that has now led to 500,000 people dying, mostly Ukrainian men, but also, of course, Russian men as well, and some innocent civilians caught in the crossfire. This never needed to happen at all. It could have been stopped. And, Gonzalo was one of the people who pointed out as well that Boris Johnson went to Ukraine to see Zelensky after he'd arranged a peace deal with Putin in April 2022 in Turkey, brokered by Erdogan. And after Boris Johnson went to see Zelensky, he U-turned on the peace deal and carried on escalating war, underpinned obviously by Johnson, and then behind him Biden in the White House in the USA, and the American regime, the deep state regime there, Victoria Nuland and everybody else who's involved. So Gonzalo Lira was fantastic at reporting on all the ins and outs of this, and was very, very knowledgeable about the people, the history, the actors in the government, both in Russia and in Ukraine and in the collective West as well. Then in May the 1st, it was last year, 2023, he disappeared again. And it was filmed, actually, wasn't it? It was he was arrested in his apartment, so it wasn't like he disappeared. They were celebrating that the Ukrainian forces arrested him, and they were mocking him and putting the video all over the place to show that he was arrested. And that was in May 2023, and then he was treated appallingly in prison, tortured in prison, and he was due to stand trial in August 2023. He was surprisingly released a few days before then, and then he tried to escape. He thought that it was very strange thing. So the authorities had arrested him. They kept him in a prison for 3 months, for nearly 4 months. He was treated badly, he was tortured. And then he was released a few days before his trial. They gave him back his papers, his passport and so on. And he thought that was, they were saying, look, leave the country. We don't want anything to do with you. That's what he thought was a possibility. Sadly, he was wrong. But yeah, he tried to get across the border to Hungary, and he made some videos just before he tried to cross the border. And in them he said, look, I'm trying this. This is my last chance. I've got my passport back. I've got a motorbike. He's been treated badly. He's been fleeced for $100,000. People in the security services, the prison system, had sort of extorted money out of him. But he somehow got a motorbike and was trying to get back into Hungary, which is, the only thing you could call a friendly country outside, in the collective West, Serbia maybe as well. But he tried to get across the border. He didn't make it. He was arrested again. And that was confirmed a few days later. There was no real news of the trial that he was supposed to go through for nothing more than expressing opinions. Obviously opinions that the murderous Zelensky regime didn't like, because they are not for freedom, not for democracy, even though the idiot puppets in Western governments always spout this line that, we're sending weapons and money to Zelensky to fight for freedom and democracy. This is a regime that has cancelled all opposition press. All the opposition parties have been closed down. Elections have been postponed, effectively cancelled. They're closing down churches in Ukraine. They're press ganging young people, well, not young men, old men now, and even women, to go and fight a war which clearly isn't going anywhere, and raking in billions and billions of pounds from Western countries for nothing, not for any good purpose. So obviously this is going into the pockets of the people around him, and the security services, the oligarchs, and whatever. So this is just a disaster has happened to Ukraine. But he called that out. But that's what he was doing. Nothing more than that. That's not a crime. We believe in free speech in the West, and he could have been freed with one phone call from Biden, because he was an American citizen. Yeah, he was Chilean, obviously from Chile. But he spent a lot of time when he was younger in America, went to university in America, and spoke perfect English. English was fantastic, infallible. And they could have got him out of there, obviously, with all the money that's coming from America and Western countries. Biden, the White House, could have just made a single phone call to say, Zelensky, there's an American citizen here in your jail, release him, send him back to America, because he's an American citizen. But we live in a world now where Western governments will not protect their own people. They'll sell out their own people to some murderous regime for their wicked aims. And Gonzalo Lira was a victim of that. So, he was there essentially, with a brief few days out of prison where he tried to get across the border, and he was rearrested. So essentially from May until January this year, 2024, he was in prison being treated badly, and his health deteriorated. He had pneumonia, other reports say he had a collapsed lung, and so on, and then he died. And they say, this is from natural causes. Well, he wouldn't have died if he wasn't put in prison for free speech and tortured for free speech. And this is the reality of this wicked, evil Zelensky regime that has killed a good and innocent man. And everyone needs to know that. And to add insult to injury, just on the same day, my country, which shamefully is run by Rishi Sunak now, who is unelected. Not that the person or the people he replaced were any better than him, Liz Truss, Boris Johnson, they're all the same. They're all globalists, and they all support these wars and these attacks on freedom, that we've had from the lockdown period and so on, which is a whole other story. He's now pledged another £3 billion to Ukraine, the very same day that Gonzalo Lira died, which is, that just shows the nature of these beasts. So this is a very sad day, and yeah, that's all I'm going to say. Rest in peace, Gonzalo.